What's going on, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Carbonite Bounty BS with me and the
What
nerds
up?
here. Glad to be back, man, and glad to wrap up another season of Star Wars Rebels heading into season 3 here. So, a lot of interesting points here. I think this was a solid ending to the season, but before we dive into that, let's let DP know where to find us at.
Nerdcyclopedia.com, people. Make sure that you are following us and also subscribing to us on our various outlets. On Nerdcyclopedia, you can get all our different links on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Nerdcyclopedia. You can also subscribe there to our YouTube channel, Nerdcyclopedia. Make sure that you are following us on Facebook and also joining our group, Carbonite Bounty BS, a Star Wars group where we talk about everything Star Wars, all your favorite memes and favorite discussions and all the new stuff, all the good stuff. The goodness is right there on that platform. Make sure that you are listening to us and also subscribing to us on iHeartRadio. We are on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Stitcher, TuneIn, wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. We are there. And leave us some feedback. Leave us some great comments. Down below. And also nerds at nerdcyclopedia.com. Leave us some feedback, and we'll try to get it on for you.
Appreciate that, DP.
I think of all of you guys. All of you guys are some.
I'm not going to cut away. That's the fun part. I'm not going to do it. I'm going to let that sit. No. What are we? What are we? What do you think we are?
Marinate.
Funny like a clown? What do you think?
I love all you guys.
Oh, appreciate it.
Oh, it's a Thanksgiving miracle.
There we go.
It is, man.
All right.
And yeah, hopefully everybody has a happy holidays this coming week here. But yeah, guys, just kind of getting some initial reactions. We'll start with you, Hitch. What was your reaction on this final batch here?
All right, so something I directly asked for happened. Yay! I love it when that happens. When I say Star Wars, give me something yum yum, and then they feed me. Delicious. I will say, having Ahsoka and Anakin meet up here, it felt telegraphed and yet so excellent. I did like that they paid off when earlier in the season I said the Emperor kind of came in and said, Lord Vader, this is too early in the plot for you to be involved. And he just kind of left. They brought him back. And they talked about Vader before he got there a little.
Right.
So it really sold that to me. I like that a lot. Oh, man, super excited about that ending. Just a really great high stakes in the random cameos from Darth Maul of all people. Just really, really well put together. I enjoyed this batch of episodes very, very much.
Yeah, I kind of second that. Anytime we get to some kind of Sith, relics where they're going to Malachor, I mean, you get some of these kind of what we consider lost planets that you would see in the EU or expanded universe. Mm-hmm. It's always nice to see. Great to see kind of the maturation is, as Ken always said, of kind of Ezra and his kind of tutelage as being, a young Jedi Knight. Kind of he was, I guess the original story of Rey, kind of a kid lost on a planet, family kind of, gone out of the picture and, a kid left to find his way in the Force. So I really am liking the plot. And it's weird how we've seen Rebels come out and then we've seen the character of Rey create. It's kind of almost like an Ezra clone, so to speak. Mm-hmm. Not as well written, but we'll get into that at some point. But, it's great to see how they kind of keep sprinkling all these other planets. And it makes it so even somebody like DP, who's not really like a hardcore Star Wars fan, it kind of sprinkling this little bit into this, Star Wars cake we say they're making to make everybody understand a lot of, the planets we don't see, we don't go to. So I really like the ending. Anytime we have lightsaber battles in Star Wars, especially some of these cool ones, I'm a giant fan. So, can't go wrong with that. What about you, Mr. Tarkin?
Yeah, I second that. You know what? It's funny you mentioned Rey because I was thinking that like their personalities were driven from broken families. So Ezra was lost his parents, and Rey, well, we're not really sure. She's not sure. She just knows she was cast off, and maybe nobody wanted her. But what I really liked about these last couple episodes is that you're really seeing Ezra ramp up, like the challenges are bigger and he's put into more conflict and he has to make bigger decisions. And you'll see where that all goes in the third season, because he's legit, like he changes. But it's just interesting that they really started to ramp things up in these last episodes, and we saw, like the beginning of the Rebel base, like they found where to establish themselves. And then I really dug how they're starting to take like the two sides, like for instance Zeb and Callus, like they've had to work together through a challenge, right? So that's like big, and that's also big in the whole Star Wars thing. Like, we're on opposite sides, but maybe sometimes we got to get together and like work through a problem, because bottom line, we're all just simple people making their way in the world, and it's just a very there's a lot of human, like what we're going through right now, how we have to really work together now to get through things. So it's good. It's a good set. It's a really good set to lead, and this was the first time that in any of these genres that we've been watching where I'm okay with the finale. Like if this had been, I just watched this season and we were waiting for the third season to come out, I'd be like, okay, that was a good finale. I don't feel like I got ripped off. DP.
Yeah, I'm definitely agreeing. I'm glad you mentioned Callus and Zeb, because
I love
Callus.
Callus.
That was my favorite episode of the season. And I was not a Callus liker. I just called him like, fake Logan, fake Wolverine,
Yeah, with the chops.
with the chops and stuff. Like, who is this guy? He's being such a D and everything, But that particular episode with him and Zeb, stranded on a planet and Callus getting hurt. I mean, it slowed everything down. It could have been its own bottle episode, but they did show like a couple other characters like at the beginning of the episode. But it could have been its own bottle episode. It slowed everything down to where Callus had to. It just really showed his character. He is a soldier being told, given orders and executing those orders. Zeb, comes from a background, but he's a rebel now, so he's seeing different perspectives. But yet and still, they had to work together in order to get out that cave from the monster and stuff. And Zeb Callus sort of like broke himself down, talking about his past and stuff, what he was told. And Zeb saying, what you was told might not have been actually what actually happened, and Callus, I'm just following orders, but it showed a side of him where I did not expect. And it's a great thing where you see a character come out one way, as callous as he was, as he is towards, his enemies and stuff, sort of turn about, when he's actually broken down, and really, took the Zeb and really found his human side, and his human compassion and everything. He was way more compassionate than I ever seen him in any episode. And I'm way more interested in this character now than I've ever been. Mentioning that, the finale was awesome. It felt like a movie ending, very emotional, high stakes, as Hitch was saying. And the fight, it is a carryover between Ahsoka and Anakin from the Clone Wars and stuff. So to bring this over to Rebels, it's like, okay, but I'll take it, because I've been following both series, and it was great to see. So I definitely love these last batch episodes.
Yeah, I think this is probably one of the best season endings. Like even like Tarkin said, as far as all the content we went over, outside of course, the one, the Mandalorian ending, which will go down in history. Yeah. I mean, that's an all-timer, but
that's an ending that changed Star Wars. Like that ending is so good that it has changed the entire trajectory of what Star Wars and Disney is.
I can agree 1,000%. But just kind of delving into that Vader piece, I mean, we really get to see the first kind of battle between master and apprentice, and to see the human element of him still. This is like the early form of Vader. I really like how the writers did that, when the helmet got kind of damaged. you're still kind of seeing that human elements before the body starts to decay. Because as we know with Sith, the more rage, anger, the more the body decays, the more the force, the living force of the humans start to wear. So I really like to see that as a young Anakin. The flesh is still kind of there; it's healing. But as he gets older, that body starts to decay, it starts to rot, and he starts looking more like the Emperor at the end of episode 6. So just the attention to detail they're doing with these series, the drawings, the characters. It seems like each batch, whoever's drawing these comics, these artists, they're getting a little more refined. The angles are getting a little sharper. The fight scenes are becoming more, kind of more translucent. You can see a lot. The shadowing in this show is phenomenal. The way you look at things, I'm just stunned. So
the shots of Vader menacing, right?
Right.
Where he, what I mean, where Vader has pressing down with the saber, and he's got that menace, and it looks like a Ralph McQuarrie, concept art from 1975.
Yeah, the cape billowing up in the back, and
right. It just looks so great, and it's like the fulfillment of what like Darth Vader was like what you assume Darth Vader was when he stepped up on the ship in the very first scene, right? Like, oh man, like this guy is going to be a problem, and it's such a great fight. It's so great to see like even Maul be afraid of him. Everybody's afraid of Vader, and and to echo your how they make him human, that you can still see the scar on Anakin's eye, and it's still recognizable in this panoply of burn scars on his face. They show you that insight, and we see Ahsoka viewing this holocron of Anakin, talking about how to deflect blaster bolts. You know what I mean? And it's this poignant moment because she understands, like we understand, who he was and who he is. So it's really this reckoning of how would these characters react to finding out that this paragon of virtue turned into a child murderer at best, and that's at best. Ugh.
Well, she was able to see because she knew him as Anakin, the Jedi, so she's able to see through this darkness that he's coming. But she also was around when he started to change. Right. When their relationship was starting to crumble, and and there was the falling out, and so you think about that. If you grew up with somebody and they started to drift away from maybe your childhood memory of them, and then you saw them again 25 years later, you'd still know them as the way they were,
right?
So you still try and see that. So she's conflicted, and that's dangerous because whenever there's conflict with a Jedi, you got trouble, because they start to think, and they start to use emotion, and that emotion can go different ways.
Ahsoka's not a Jedi.
Not officially.
A part-timer.
A part-time Jedi.
Yeah, she's a scab.
Not part of the org.
Yeah, she's not part of the order,
Doesn't
but
pay
she'll come in
dues.
and do her bit when she needs to, and then
She kind of made her point that I'm not a Jedi, so I'm not, I don't have to adhere to those type rules and stuff. To the point of, with Darth Vader, and when they did, when she did slice part of his helmet, they brought the voice actor from Clone Wars back just to do those couple lines. That's the attention to detail, that you guys were talking about, Mitch. That you got to appreciate with this show, just to do those couple lines. They brought Matt Lanker back, to voice those couple lines just for that part. And I don't think he's in there for the rest of the series. I'm not sure. We'll see in like the future and stuff. But the whole battle was just awesome. It was a thing that we Clone Wars fans have been waiting for. So if you're just like a Rebels fan just watching this, it's like, okay, this is cool, but why is this here? It's here for us. And just the emotion of that, the final couple scenes with them, getting out of the what do you call it, the temple. It was just like a movie. It was just like you could actually see it on screen, being played out as the final scenes in a movie. And I was like, wow, the pacing on this is just great. for for an animated TV show, for like the half an hour it was on. Great set of episodes. Like I said, I mean, I'm going back to Agent Callus. That was decent. It was something else in there. I was just like you guys can go on. I'll get back to it, but
I like that Callus episode myself. It reminded me of Enemy Mine with Louis Gossett Jr., where they crash and they have to work together to survive. It was nice to see.
Wow, that's a throwback. That's 80s, dude.
Yeah,
right?
I have a broad breadth of knowledge. Everybody knows that.
And it was a lizard, like it was almost a Bosk, like
yes.
Alien,
He played the
right?
lizard. They put the guy that got nominated for the Oscar in the lizard costume.
Why not?
It's just what you do nowadays, right? Anyway, but I like that a lot, and I liked how they fleshed out some of that guy's character, right? He's no longer this one-dimensional fake Wolverine. Now he's conflicted. Now he has some sort of code. Now he doesn't want to be with the Emperor anymore. I mean, that's a dangerous place to be. Doubting. I mean, we talk about doubt as being dangerous for a Jedi. It's dangerous for an Imperial officer. They're not. I don't know if you guys have been paying attention to the Sith, but my read on them is they don't like second chances very much.
Not really. Not
Not a fan of that stuff.
Oh man. Did Maul lose like a lot of weight? I mean, or is it just like the
He
animation?
shrank. No, they. I was wondering about that because whenever you see him now, he's shorter and skinnier. Like like he went on some sort of like
Vegan
diet of some keto diet, but then he also like cut his ankles out or something.
But you can't kill this guy. I mean, he was basically like some sort of technotronic like scorpion at one point in this series, and so you can't really expect him to to be able to starve to death. That's lame. So he just gets skinnier and faster, right? That's all.
But he's like a reptile. Like he cut off his tail, grows back. Don't they do that?
And they can grow back. That they run away and they leave the tail, and you're like, what the hell? It's like, wow. They squirt blood out. They squirt blood out of their eyes and stuff. Lizards are hardcore, man. I mean, this isn't a show about lizards, but we could probably get back. We could get some lizard time.
We could get a show going
lizard time on Carbonite Bounty BS. We're just gonna talk about lizards, not dinosaurs either, just because that is lame. Oh man,
Yeah.
I love that interaction, right? It is a dangerous place for them to be. The Forgotten Droid started out like you could tell it was telegraphed like this is an episode you can skip if you want to. It kind of made me laugh. But then you see Chopper's such an interesting character because he's barely a droid anyway, right?
Right. Yeah.
He talks. He's funny. He does stuff he wants to do.
Yeah.
And I love that you can see the heist going on in the background while he's haggling over this stupid leg, and they fly away. He's just like stuck there. Made me laugh, and I love the acerbic navigator droid. That guy is funny. I think that's cool. So that was a cool episode that made me laugh, and it was unexpected that it was that well put together. There's not a lot of crap. I mean, even the episodes like the one with the whales, right? The whale episode was actually pretty rad too.
Yeah, you can see the economy of this series, coming out that they, whatever they learn from Clone Wars, they're not wasting a lot of space and time, with the Rebels and stuff. Just going from like the beginning of the series, we get like the lighthearted edge of the crew. We meet our crew and everything from like the first season. Now we're deep, into like the trenches and stuff. Whereas with Clone Wars, we sort of had to inch along a bit, even though we knew a lot of those characters from like the movies and everything, it still felt like it still was like trying to introduce concepts and stuff that we weren't really familiar with, which is fine. But these Rebels, it's just like we're into it, and we're full force. We're like the A team in every episode. We're going after stuff and having heists and adventures and stuff. And I mean, it's just a great sight to see.
Yeah, that's what the Star Wars, like A New Hope, Empire, Jedi, that's what it all was. It was just boom, like you said, DP, 18 type adventures, and in Clone Wars is more like long, big, slow. Because when they talk of the Old Republic, it's very it's very preachy, very like political, and a lot of meetings, and people are discussing things. But after it all crumbles, now we're blowing stuff up and fighting.
No more discussion.
Right. No more talking.
And discussion.
We know the sides. We
Right,
know
right.
we know the teams, and we know the colors of everything. We're just gonna go. We're just gonna blow stuff up.
Yeah, we're just gonna blow stuff up, action upon action. So I can dig it.
Speaking of which, how about Geonosis being devoid of all life? It's a pretty steep price. That's a steep price to pay to cover up, your dalliance with Lord Tyrannus and the Sith and all that stuff, right? That seems like, this is Palpatine, how he ties up his loose ends, and he does a pretty thorough job.
Mm-hmm.
My goodness gracious. There's billions of Geonosians. There's none. Zilch.
Zero.
Turned their planet into an ice ball and moved on. Ridiculous.
Yeah. The only nitpicky thing I noticed on this is the one thing I really wanted to see was Vader throw Ahsoka her saber back from when he picked up at the end of Clone Wars. That's like the only thing. Yeah. That's the only detail I wish Filoni would have gave. That would have been like that extra, that little touch.
Wasn't it just it was pieces of it though? Wasn't it broken?
No, he picked it up. I think he ignited it
in the snow, right?
Yeah, I think he ignited it.
I thought it was. Yeah, he did. He ignited it. Okay, I thought it was broken, but yeah, he could.
For him to throw it at her or something, or just to show it like on his hip or something, as you saw some of them. Who was it?
Look what I have.
Yeah.
I brought this because I thought you'd be here. You left it.
I sensed that
my master used to be a real tool about this, but I always said when I was a master, I wouldn't be a tool. But now die! Right?
Because I thought you'd be here.
You left this.
But
for you.
Yeah. You dropped this back in the day here.
It's been 15 years and I've been just holding on to it.
You dropped this.
But you figure for this first encounter, major encounter, you would have thought that the Emperor told him that she was there, because the Emperor senses everybody, It's basically
he's the guy that built the Sith temple, right? He knows everything that's going on over there.
He has a Saiyan scout reader on, so he knows everybody's power level before he gets there.
Yeah, right? 9,000. Pitiful. Bah!
Yeah. So, Vader coming there is, you would think that he would have some sort of sense of like the whole thing that's going on.
Well, if you think of the Empire like a big chess set, Vader is the queen, right? Vader is the most powerful piece. So the Emperor knows what Vader is up to all the time.
Mm-hmm. And who he's known and who he's been with and what way he's thinking about those people. He's got to know that this, wouldn't he think that Ahsoka and Anakin meeting again would be a bad idea? Or
I think this was another test.
Yeah.
Like his test into his his apprenticeship into the Sith,
evolution into
into the into the dark side, to see if that human element like we thought of is gone yet. So
you see Ben Solo do that
idea. Like
he goes after Obi-Wan. This is all makes sense because Palpatine's just trying to, like, either he'll die or he'll kill this person and come back stronger and tied tighter to me. Like if you were running a leggings pyramid scheme and you told people to quit your other job and then
wear leggings.
Yeah. So if you had a pyramid scheme where you were selling leggings and then you said to the people, hey, only get money from our leggings pyramid scheme, then they'd have to do whatever you said. Basically, you'd have total control over them.
Mm-hmm.
Same way with the Sith, right? The dark side is this pyramid scheme where the apprentice is investing and the master's just like just like running stuff and eating these huge ridiculous meals that I assume Palpatine eats. So he's got to be a glutton. And then it's just that's how it works. The apprentice pays, and then at the end of the day, they strike down their master. Master takes over their body. That's the end of the day, right? So it's a pyramid scheme, the same way as if you were selling leggings as a pyramid scheme. Not that I know of any companies of which that is an example. But I'm saying the dark side is a pyramid scheme.
Mm-hmm. Well, you have to have everyone invested in it. Everyone has to think the same way. You can't have anybody saying, maybe this isn't a good idea, because then what happens to your pyramid?
Anakin, I'm giving you a hard sell. Listen to me. I can bring people back from the dead.
And then he asks, how about could you bring my wife back?
I know, but some stuff, and we'll see what we can do. Now you've murdered a lot of children at my behest and your friend Mace, so there's not really any going back. Anyway,
Yeah.
why don't you go commit some more political murders for me? That's how I remember that cell job working. And Anakin was like, "Hey, in for a penny, in for a pound," right?
Yeah. A lot of these questions we have about, Anakin's wife's death and everything, I really think they're going to tie those loose ends up with Hayden Christensen when we get that Vader series at some point. They're doing such a good job. And DP, you've alluded to this of like, these series is The Mandalorian. He's in this fabric of this kind of alternate universe, that, we think that they're going to go down to retcon maybe 4, 5, and 6, leading into 7 and things like that. So I think we're going to get a lot more details of Vader, of Mustafar, of what really happened, as his maturation into a Sith master, in the next coming years.
Absolutely. There's a room full of writers right now working on that. I mean, they're listening to us, they're listening to the fans, they're reading material, they're figuring out ways to give us all of that. Because, I mean, literally the whole story is about Vader and Luke, right? I mean, the whole thing, why we're sitting here is about this relationship. Now, all these different stories spin off in different ways, and we're learning there's backstories to everything, but there could be so much cool stuff that they show us in that series, and and then you can go back and watch all this stuff and be like,
yeah,
that's why. It makes sense.
I'll say this: cartoon Anakin is definitely has more depth, a lot more depth than live action Anakin.
Way more.
I feel like this character is so much more developed, and I feel much more empathy for the decisions this character makes now. But that, I watch episode 2 and 3 like we did, and it feels like this old stayed 2D interpretation of the cartoon Anakin now. It feels like that. Like, this was kind of a miss of this other character that I like a lot that's doing the holocrons, and you know what I mean? That I see the continuity with this Vader. And then I watch episode 3, and I'm just like, well, the thing that he does is still sort of like stupid because, why would you, you know what I mean? It was like his own arrogance, right? I understand all of it, but it just does not. It's not as good as what's in the cartoons. That's what's better with Anakin.
I noticed that immediately when watching the Clone Wars, like the Anakin Skywalker on there, just immediately he came in with personality, way much more, character and personality than what we saw with Hayden Christensen. Now, I hope when, Hayden Christensen does his Anakin this time, he can take from what we've seen in Clone Wars and actually, imbue, a lot of that, whatever they plan, within, the series. It's still kind of hard to see unless they're doing, Force Ghosts and flashbacks and stuff. If they do flashbacks, he has to take a lot of his cues from what we've seen in Clone Wars. It
was not Hayden's fault. It's not Hayden's fault because the Anakin Skywalker in episode 3 is not as mature as the Anakin Skywalker at the end of the Clone Wars series. It's not the same portrayal.
Even in the beginning of the Clone Wars series, or at least to me, he came in with a lot more personality.
He came in with more substance. He was more rounded, tougher. You liked him a little bit more. You could interact with him. Now Hayden, critics said his performance. They used the word cardboard a lot, and even fans said it was just a terrible. But I liked him. I thought he was a pretty decent, naive beginnings of a Jedi. He played that very well.
I think that the episode 3 Anakin needed to be much more like he was petulant. He was still not doing what Obi-Wan said, and doing all this stuff, and it was working out. But he should have been more like Dick Winters at the end of Band of Brothers was basically 23. You know what I'm saying? There's a different sort of gravitas that living through the war has given the Anakin that I see in this cartoon that I think was missing from the Anakin in as it was portrayed in the movie. And maybe that's because the Ahsoka wasn't around, And so that story of Anakin having to learn to train someone wasn't there. Maybe that has given a lot of depth and a lot of mirror.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's a movie versus a longer series, and so there should be more depth in the longer series. So I don't want anyone to feel like I'm knocking it, but I'm just saying, like, the way these cartoons are put together, they're really, really excellent, and they tie themselves together really well. I mean, this continuity between the Clone Wars to Bad Batch to this is so excellent. When you see Rex in all of these series. When you see, I was watching this with Holly today, and I was explaining, this is the Padawan from Bad Batch. And she was like, really? How are you? They're tying all of this together. I'm excited to see the next step is bringing these characters out of the cartoons and into the live action, right? And seeing if they can pull that off in 3 dimensions with, the Obi-Wan series happening at about the same time. And like you're talking about a Vader series and how these characters, some of them are aliens that don't age at the same way as humans do. So there's this long time period where they can just show up and be 600 years old, and then who cares, right? The Chewbacca's 250 years old. You show up, Chewbacca can be in any story you want to throw Chewbacca into, except that he died on Cernpidal, according to the Chewbacca Memorial Association. Because he died at the end of Vector Prime.
If you get Freddie Prinze to come and play Kanan, I'm all for it. I'm there.
I think that would be pretty decent, but I'm willing to. I want to see this. This Ahsoka series. If there's flashbacks, it's going to be all about this crew that she's involved in, right? Like it would make sense for this to happen. It's just right there.
Great to see.
It's right there, and one thing I really like about Rebels, it's something I asked for talking about The Mandalorian before we watched through this already existing media. To be fair, again to the already existing media, but I asked for a series of capers and heists and space battles, and a lot like Wraith Squadron books. And I will tell you that, like, these episodes, the episode with the whales would be a whole Wraith Squadron book. A whole book would be about these whales, and we'd learn all about them. Like the Homecoming plot, where they steal the carrier, and there's these ulterior motives. Like, they would have made this big deal. It felt like this felt like 3 or 4 Wraith Squadron novels, and honestly, that's what I was looking for in a series. And so this is really, between this and all the space wizardry, scratching a lot of itches for me.
Yeah, quenching that thirst. Yeah, awesome. Yep.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, because that was always been my gripe, even with Ken, about how Obi-Wan was portrayed in the movies. He was portrayed as a character on these live action animated cartoons. I mean, night and day. And maybe it's just like we're talking about. I can't knock it. Maybe it was just the writing for the period from once the series came out. But there's so much more character depth that you learn to appreciate the characters more. And maybe as we discuss this, and the more and more we have these discussions, and off camera we talk about some of the other series as we follow and movies we see. I'm becoming a fan of and it's a sad thing. I never thought I'd say this, but maybe it really is time for the death of the movie. It's just the more I see in some of these things, and it's just a side note. And I know Spider-Man may be our last hope, but the more we see these expanded series, even if we do this Boba Fett, which is like a 6-episode run, maybe this is the beginning of the end of these movies, because these little series it's really hitting the point that I never thought it would. I don't know if you guys saw that.
Well, imagine if Filoni did a movie, like took this thought process and did a 2.5-hour flicker, right? And did it just like we're enjoying now with the cartoon and with Mandalorian and with everything else we're gonna get. But they just did a full action movie, and they took one chapter, pick something from Clone Wars and threw it up on the big screen and made it legit.
Well, I think the movies have their place. I think when you talk about story and you're talking about like the character development over like a long period of time, these stories, whether it be in Marvel is with long running comic books and stuff, are made more for a serial type of thing where you can watch every week. Star Wars is universal storytelling. So you have different types of stuff going on at different aspects in the universe. It's made for more of a long stretch of time type of storytelling platform. The movies still have their place to me as telling big scale type stuff, like event type stuff. If they have to fight a certain foe or a big battle or whatever. You can still tell those stories in like the smaller streaming TV type thing. But if they were to meet like in Rebels or whatever, the last episode could have been a movie to me. It could have been a bigger scale thing that we could actually see it on screen, on the big screen and everything. Imagine something like that in like live action. Darth Maul, Darth Vader, Ahsoka, and then we got our Rebels and stuff. I mean, to me, that's the movie right there. The last 2 episodes was actually a movie. But like I said, I see where you're coming from, Mitch, because a lot more of the fandom and the interest is coming more towards these shows and stuff, and the movies have been messing up.
Yeah.
So
I'll go as far as to say, since me and you've had this discussion, but I'll say since Infinity War, I have not been pleased with a film that I've seen. I mean, Shang-Chi, but since Infinity War, I think Black Panther might have came out after that, so maybe that as well. But I just don't know. I mean, like we're talking about, you just said the last episode. Why don't we get Rebels in live action compared to a 2.5 hour movie that I know that they're going to do 2.5 hours that I'm not going to. It's not going to end, right? You really think they're going to do a movie? I mean, we'll see what Filoni does with his film if he gets one, but. I mean, look at this Disney Plus, this medium. They're killing them with these series. It's amazing. I mean,
it's not a shock that Star Wars is performing well in a serialized setting because, after all, it was designed to start as the serialized setting. I mean, that was really what it was designed to do. So it's really functioning the way it should. As far as is this going to kill movies, I'm going to tell you about a company that is, say what you want about anything else they do, knows how to tell their audience a story, all right? And that company is WWE. Now, WWE has one of the best customer, proprietor relationships there is. Their fans are 100 out of 100. They're loyal.
Right.
And let me tell you how the wrestling business used to work. They used to be on cable TV, and then they would have these pay-per-views, right? So they would have these serialized stories that would culminate in large events where there would be 4 or 5 peaks, and they'd all peak at the same time. You'd have SummerSlam or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Guess what? That works because you can have multiple continuing storylines that all happen to have a crescendo at the same chronological time and have the same event that kind of carries them all. That's a crossover event, like whatever. I'm not even going to say an Onslaught, the one that I didn't like. It made me stop subscribing to X-Men comics when I was like 14 years old.
And you had all the characters, you had Gravedigger, and you had the Caretaker, the Undertaker, and
Undertaker shows up. He's got a win streak, so he's going to be here. It's a serialized form of storytelling that has tentpoles that works. And now,
it's the same as monster trucks.
Exactly, Sunday.
Same thing. Kids
Sunday. Luke Skywalker is going to show up. It's going to be crazy. You know what I mean? Like that, it works.
Bring the family. Come on.
Yeah. Come on down to Star Wars, then. Luke Skywalker's going to show up. We're going to cut some robots in half. Come on down.
So use the series as the character stories and everything, and then when some big event comes up, let's put them all combined together. But instead of doing it in the series, we do it in a movie.
Imagine a world because
all your money on like the big special effects and fight stuff and all that. I can dig it.
What superhero films have figured out is that you don't have to keep doing the origin story because people know who things are. But what's going to happen next is you can have these origin stories happen in these series and have them be really long, and then when the characters develop to the point where they should encounter the thing they should encounter and you're ready, you can do a tentpole. Right. Or they can be introduced in a tentpole, right?
Maybe that's the key, as DP's saying. For movies to survive, I mean, we need this backstory. We need this mini series in order to gain insight on some of these characters, because as we're seeing, I mean, And Star Wars is a big proponent. It would have been nice to see a little bit of Rey, a little bit of maybe Ben Solo. Not just drop him in here and figure out he was at Luke's for
It's a big lie, right?
Yeah,
because we already saw it.
It just didn't make too much sense, and in the way that they switched directions and producers and
the other side of that is general audiences and stuff. And while we're fans of that concept and stuff, these studios are always worried about trying to bring the most people in, without alienating the hardcore fans and stuff. So if they're going to justify spending that type of money, why spend it on with people who are already fans of it when they have a chance to bring everybody in. So that's where trying to bring in story concepts that are not familiar to everyone and trying to integrate that into like a big scale blockbuster.
But I want you to think about the business model of streaming services though, and how it differs from movie tickets, which is what we don't have to explain how movie tickets work, but since this is for posterity, kids in the day, you would go to a booth and you'd say, I want to see this movie. And they'd be like, give me $5. They give you a piece of paper. You walk over to some guy, you tear it, and then you go in the movie, right? That's how it would work. So when the money changes hands is when I say, I want to see this movie. So what matters is getting as many people as possible to say, I want to see this movie now, right? In comparison to the other movies, or in comparison to, going out to eat or whatever, whatever people do. I don't know what people do for fun anymore because I'm not fun. Compare it to a streaming service, right? What matters is how many months can I cause you to renew your subscription without not doing it? That is different. It's a fundamentally different relationship that has to be built between the consumer and the producer. And it's conducive to longer media formats because you want, if the season's spread out over 4 months, guess what? I'm buying 4 months of recurring subscriptions. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so there's a lot of opportunity in this change, but it's going to lead to different types of stories being told in different ways, because what Disney wants to do with this is spend my subscription from March of 2036 now. That's what this allows them to do, because they know this guy has a Star Wars podcast. The odds of him canceling his subscription ever is zero. So we can spend all that money. We can take that money and move it forward in time to now, and people will let us do that for cheap. They'll buy our bonds for nothing. That's the whole purpose of the financial pyramid scheme of this. Everything's a pyramid scheme in my opinion. Pyramid scheme of streaming, right? Just kidding about that. So, but that's how it works, right? I'm still talking these pyramid schemes. I gotta quit watching one thing all week.
And that's absolutely true. There's definitely an economic engine underneath the streaming versus the movie. But I'll get nostalgic with you for a second. I grew up working in movie theaters. Like that, my family owned them, and I'll tell you, it's an experience. Okay.
Yep.
Now, the product on the screen better be good, or the experience is going to go out the window.
Right.
The whole idea that you're going to pick your show. So, like Scott said, you say, I want to see that movie. Here's my money. So you got to pick your show, and then you go in, and it's a whole thing. Either it's a date, or you're taking the kids, or you're just going by yourself, or you're going with your bros or something to see this particular story that you chose. Big and surround sound.
Something that you can't get at home.
You can't, and unless you're a billionaire and you built the thing in your house, you can't get that experience with the stale popcorn and the overpriced pop and the candy, and it's a thing.
Yeah, it's a thing.
Now, you go see it and you see Star Wars for the first time on the big screen. I mean, that's legit. I mean, that's like, that puts it all together. I mean, I would go to a theater that would screen these episodes maybe in sets.
Yeah.
Like maybe in 4 to 6 episodes at a time.
You and a lot of other people, Ken.
Yeah.
You and a lot of other people.
Yeah. And I
think there's definitely opportunity for them to diversify in that way, right?
Yeah.
And I'll say, I mean, me and DP saw saw Dune in the theaters for no reason. Like we could have done that at our house. We didn't have to go do that. It was a different experience,
I
right?
didn't cancel my HBO subscription that month just to see Dune. I'm still subscribing to it.
So here's a weird thought for us, and this is so I have a very young daughter, as we all know. So how old will that make us that we're like, oh, we want to go do that. We want to go out in the theater and we want to, get the popcorn and we want to sit there and do that. Is that going to be anachronistic to our kids where they're going to be like, what are you old people doing? Why are you?
Why would you?
What do you mean?
Dark room with
why don't you just do a watch party and just chat? Like, why don't you just use
watch it
IM?
on your phone?
Yeah.
I mean,
So I feel old sometimes when we talk about Star Wars. It's all good.
Yeah.
I mean, I think those days are a lot closer than we think. I mean, when I go see these movies, I just went to see the Eternals, and it was all adults. And I'm like, where are the kids? They're at the theaters, but they're not seeing the movies. I think that the audience, and it's a weirder thing because when you go to these, I went to go to the Robinson, which is a big theater. I remember back in the day, like Ken would say, they would kind of do screening to see like the audience age, the groups, and all these movies we're seeing, and it's all adults. I mean, I'll see how Spider-Man looks, as far as the audience, but the majority of these Marvel movies and things we see now, it's generally us.
Yeah.
Well, okay. So here's the thing. About it. It's funny that you talk about that. Remember Revenge of the Nerds?
All three of them.
Right. So those guys grew up and they're now tech wizards, and they're producers. They run blogs and stuff. They're us. they do podcasts and everything. So the mid-30s to 40-year-olds that grew up on this stuff. I say 30 to 40 and everything that grew up in an age where it wasn't as prevalent or wasn't the effects or the story, the respect of the these type of genres wasn't as great as it is right now, and you're able and the producers, who are our age are able to actually put these things up on screen. What we always wanted to have up on screen. This is why you have majority adults in these type of movies, because this is things that we've always wanted to see growing up, in the movies and everything, So the younger kids, they're growing up on it. They're not as into it as we are, because this is like a nostalgic attachment,
And think about what the kids are watching now. They watch these little TikToks, talk ticks. What do they call them?
Don't do it, guys.
Yeah. They're like 15-second things, and they're scrolling. They don't even have the attention span to watch something that's a half hour. I mean, we're watching things that are 22 minutes.
Yeah.
We're watching a lot of them. So
you just sound like all the teachers that had our class. They were talking about how, oh, you kids these days with your bleepy blobs.
Or Ken, it's like this. They'll watch a 2-hour movie, but they will watch it 30 minutes at a time, or even 15 minutes at a time on their small screen.
On their device.
But what can you say to them? Because
the movie in a week, but they're not.
But what can you say to them? Because if you really think about it, watching primetime TV is basically the same exact thing. Because, it's not like you can only follow one story when you're watching NCIS and NCIS Los Angeles and NCIS New Orleans. I mean, that's 3 stories about NCIS that you got to keep straight. Yeah. So, I mean, that's a skill we have for sure, right?
Yeah.
Because we couldn't decide when to watch stuff. I mean, that's like magic and stuff. Yeah. Again, I'm an old man. I recognize
DVR.
Yeah.
On demand, Oh wow, you can watch it when you want to.
I remember when that came out. I was in high school. It blew my mind. I was like, every episode of Curb Your Enthusiasm. Oh my god!
So what really killed entertainment? The DVR. Yeah.
But it didn't because as we all know, entertainment is certainly outliving those delivery methods from DVR. I mean, it's just not something that you need to do to record because the library exists. So, the technology is moving forward. And I think also, we were talking about this, the way these cartoons look is getting better and better. Every time they do like an update of the characters look a little different. The movement's a little sleeker and everything looks a little bit more realistic. The space battles are actually really awesome. Like, really good. Yeah, and they've been making the stakes really clear. Like, that on Homecoming when they had that shuttle was bringing over the strike team of stormtroopers, and they showed them. They showed you this thing is full of people, and they blow it up. Like, you know what I mean? They show you the stakes and they pay them off. These are it's man, the production is really great. But 20 years ago, like, the novelty was that they could even put any of this stuff on the screen at all. Like Spider-Man 1 was like, look, we can make Spider-Man show up. We can do all this stuff. We can do it. Hey, like that's what it was for the most part. You know, and it's an origin story that everybody knows. The Spider-Man's origin story.
I was watching Knight Rider. I was getting nostalgic yesterday. I was watching Tubi and like on demand and stuff, watching Knight Rider, and I felt real nostalgic because I was very into that show and like that car. And it's particularly the Goliath episodes with Garth Knight and Michael Knight going against each other, and like Kit, going against Goliath. The dialogue. Oh my goodness, the dialogue in these shows were so bad. And
Have you ever
about good, DP? It didn't have to be good. They had you with the car. I mean, the car was what it was. It didn't even matter. You were just watching it to see the car, and all the rest was just full stuffing.
It was in 1985. We were still electrifying the country. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, people remembered World War One. Like, it wasn't. You know what I mean? It was a long time ago. Yeah, they remembered that stuff.
With the car, man. I
remember when President McKinley was shot, and you're just like, yeah, that's been a long time. That's 36 years, a long time. 36 years before 1985 was 1949. Just in case anybody is curious about how long it has been since 1985.
I think it's been. I think what was that? I think Supernatural. I think started in 1945.
Yes, different.
Whatever, 50 seasons of that show. Like, imagine that. 50 seasons of Supernatural. I mean, geez. That's a lesson. How many times you can tell the same story? Literally, how many times? It's like killing Goku, right? How many times can you come back?
All right,
but I guess my point was the way they just pumped out shows and stuff. Man, you just okay. We got the gimmick, we got the hook. Doesn't matter what type of dialogue, story, or whatever. No serialization, no type of complex storytelling is what we see nowadays. Get them with the gimmick.
Right.
Let's pump out
car,
2 episodes
with the car. And people were watching, and they knew they were going to watch, and they knew they were going to come back week after week and watch it.
But again, the financial situation with television is advertisements during the show. So it's how many people can I convince to watch this now?
Yeah.
So the people like UDP who are addicted to Knight Rider and cannot be stopped under any circumstances watching Knight Rider, you're gonna keep doing it anyway.
It's not Hasselhoff, it's the car.
The car. Yeah, Mr. Feeney. I like that voice. That's what it is. So you're always gonna watch it. So they don't really care. They don't have to cater to you. They don't have to worry about your enjoyment. So they never have to tell anything with depth. They don't, because what matters is the marginal people that are watching Newhart or whatever the heck is on, Miami Vice or whatever else is on. I don't remember the networks there, so that might all be CBS, whatever. Right. But you guys get the gist of this. The issue is that financially, streaming is actually set up to reward the repeat customer, which means the quality matters a lot. And I think that is something Disney figured out faster than other of their competitors, because Mandalorian season 1 was a very high quality, and they jumped it with season 2, as we discussed. The 5 minutes that saved Star Wars forever is the marriage of the original trilogy movies seamlessly with this television stuff. And what we see in Rebels is a lot of that. We talk about these mutton chops, these 1970s haircuts, right? Yeah. I mean, the spirit is 75s there. We talk about the Ralph McQuarrie Darth Vader. And there's a lot of this really great old school Star Wars spirit present. They're calling the Imperial people imps. I heard imps coming out here, which is an old EU thing. They used to call them imps.
I love the Inquisitors.
The Inquisitors, yeah.
How many of you are there? There's plenty of us.
They got to bring you want to know.
I did like the WWE Barbie brought in there. It's an interesting point.
That's a great point. Great.
The part that maybe you guys aren't aware of is they've been floated to Disney multiple times over the last 2 years. So
I
Yeah.
believe it. I believe
No,
it.
no.
Would that
yeah.
be? How would that be if Disney took over WWE? I mean,
but
you
he's
could
been
have
trying. He's been trying to.
Elsa
He's been actively.
versus Olaf.
Olaf
been
explaining
acting-
WrestleMania
Yeah.
3. Have you guys seen those Olaf tells, like the different movies, like Tangled or whatever? My niece is into it, so we watched that today. Olaf can tell about WrestleMania 3. It'd be great. And then Andre came in.
He's been actively trying to do that for a while.
I would love to see a Disney WWE. I would love to see the Andre the Giant story told in animation. I think that would actually be really, really awesome. Frankly,
So, yeah, there's so many stories you can go with.
Yeah.
interesting.
the characters are big in wrestling. Listen, I'm not here to talk about highbrow versus lowbrow. That's not what I'm here to do. I'm saying the
Right.
structure works, and what they have is they have a core of dedicated fans that will always buy their stuff no matter what. And it is what it is. And we are the wrestling fans of Star Wars. That's what we are, basically,
Correct.
right?
Yeah.
We're here for that. Some of us are here to chant for to root for the heels. Some of us are here. Some of us like the faces. You know, some of us see ourselves as like the $1 million man, right, Tarkan? And you know, there's something for everybody. So I think that the way that they structure their products is very successful for how they market their product to their own customers. And I think that Disney's learning from that, and they are structuring Star Wars in such a way as to emulate the structure and thus provide repeat enjoyment for people who are total marks like us. that
I'm
believe
not
that it's
ashamed.
real.
I'm not ashamed. I mean, you know, it was a time where our people, you know, was, you know, looked upon condescendingly for, you know, liking the material that we like. But now we control the media, so we can be out there like that now. You know, we can do our podcast.
That's true. The people like myself, you know, when I was a kid, I saw, you know, I must have seen Empire Strikes Back 300 times. I mean, I was looked upon not as a role model in my school, but as like an outcast. Like nobody wanted to. No one wanted me to rub off on anybody, you know, right? Because, you know, parents didn't want their kids to start going to see Empire Strikes Back multiple times. But I had an income, so I could do that. Plus, I knew you could sneak in the side door in the alley at Warner Theater downtown, and you could just see it once and then go in. You know,
just see it multiple times,
right? But so I was a nerd, but I was also a thief.
That made you a cool nerd.
You were a cool nerd.
Yeah, I was a cool nerd.
Nerd that steals,
They
that's cool
not
nerd.
know. Right.
The newest Assassin's Creed.
But
Sneaking
but
into
nerdy.
movies.
Right.
Yeah.
But no, guys, it's definitely been a fun podcast, and it's great to get you guys all back together again. You know, as we kind of delve, I guess,
Yes.
delve into season 3 here. I think
can't
it's a similar run. I think there's like 22 or 23. So
Yeah, we'll start off with the first 7?
or 7. Yeah, first we can go 7, 8, 7, or
Sorry, guys.
Yeah.
Hold on, guys. I'm sorry. I'm having some trouble with my caps lock. Well, give me a second here. This is not. This isn't. Listen, we all know this isn't like a super professional production. It's all good.
Oh, not at all.
3-part. I'm putting it up.
I seen a
still
little
putting
bit
it
of the first episode with they have different haircuts now and stuff. So
yeah.
Oh, different haircuts. Yeah, that goes to the personality.
Is that your Pittsburgh spin?
Different haircuts.
Is that how we say season in Pittsburgh?
That's all he. That's all.
Oh, no.
Oh, he's got a different haircut. He must have evolved.
Enough is good.
He's a Jedi Knight now. He's got a different haircut.
yeah, pretty much.
That's what you do, right? Because they make you wear that stupid braid. So
Right.
you did get a
And
haircut
just
when you became a
snip
Jedi. It's
that
real.
off, and you're a Jedi Knight.
Wonder what happened to well, DP, like Mace Windu, what happened with us? I wonder. I can't have the ability to have a braid, so I don't know what would happen.
You just went right on to Master.
Yeah, you know?
You skipped
I'm the son of Mace Windu, so
Yeah,
I get a pass. I get a pass. You know,
Oh, man.
and it's still wild. You know, I know it's going off topic, but like
We talked about leggings like pyramids.
Yeah, you know,
more than once. It's all
Darth
right,
Maul's still alive, but Mace Windu isn't. I mean, come on, that's still like that still irks me to this day, to this minute. It's always going to. So until they tell me what I know they're going to do is Mace Windu saved Grogu from the temple. That's going to be the final story. You've heard it here first, ladies and gentlemen.
Ooh,
Mace-
that's a bold prediction.
Mace
Yeah,
Windu
hot take,
saved Grogu.
hot take.
It's a hot take.
Yeah, and I don't think Mace died. It's going to take more than
He got
that.
thrown over the
No,
edge, but we didn't see any body, right?
nothing. And it's going to take more than